a little hard to hear.
Me?
No, the boardroom.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. We acknowledge the traditional territory of the mutual Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. I have received 3 regrets for this evening. All have been academic related or work related. So can I have a motion on the table that the board of directors adopt the agenda as presented? By Director Sheed and seconded by Director Murphy. Would you like to speak to your motions?
I would like to add something to the agenda if that would be okay. At the
Sure.
end, possibly. Attendance. I would like to bring that that item to the for discussion.
Okay, we can do that. I was going to talk about attendance in my updates anyways, but if you want, we can still add something at the end. If you have any extra comments, I don't have a problem with that. Would you also like to speak to your motions for anything else? Okay, that's see none. We'll move into voting. All those in favor? All those opposed? And then the abstentions. Okay.
You're late, Michaela.
All right, the motion passes 7-0 to 1. Moving onwards to the approval of meeting minutes from November 1st, November 15th, and November 29th, 2022. Does anybody have any issues with these minutes before we move into motioning to approve them?
One remark, if I could.
Sure.
Again, just a question. Have we decided like if we're gonna remain transcript style or or have we switched to like summary style? I don't know. Because I believe the minutes are transcript style, and I just have heard 2 things, or I think I did.
I believe a few meetings ago we discussed that it would be summary style. If they are in transcript style, I think that's okay. Just in the future, I think it's good to ensure that they are summary style. All right. So can I have a motion on the table to approve the meeting minutes from the dates I just described? Motion by Director Claire, seconded by Director Corey. Would you like to speak to your motions? Any discussion on the matter? As I see none, we'll be voting. All those in favor?
Can I abstain?
Yeah. All those opposed? And then the abstentions.
Just not being present for those meetings, I'm just going to
All right. The motion passes 7-0 to 3. Onwards to comments from the board and chair and CGO. If you guys have been checking your emails, you can tell it's been one hell of a week. We have been trying to find a meeting time that works for everybody. I want to reiterate that there are only 2 reasons for missing a meeting. That is academic conflict, and I've extended that into work conflicts too, to understand to be in financial standing, we have to work. So please make sure to get back to me within 48 hours and make sure you can make these meetings unless you have an academic or work conflict. In addition, I want to talk about the events that were supposed to take place, the ownership linkage events. I understand it kind of fell through. I severely apologize for that. We will be making strides to have those events again, hopefully during the election season, but we shall see what happens. So I believe that's all the comments I have for now. Onwards to comments from the president and CEO. Phil, we'll take that. You're muted.
Yep. You'd think after 2+ years I'd have figured that part out by now, but here we are. Unfortunately, Shane's not able to meet this meeting today. He has been invited and is attending the Battle of Waterloo at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. So he's passed on a couple of notes for me to pass along to you guys. Of a pretty serious nature, our Vice President of Student Services Waterloo, Mackenzie Lake, has accepted a position full-time continuing with the university based on the Brantford campus. And so her status has gone from full-time down to part-time to accommodate that portfolio. And we are in the process of kind of dividing up what that workload's going to look like. So in order that all her coordinators and AVP are supported in the work that they do, a lot of the planning for this coming semester has already been taken, and now it's just a matter of execution. So we, as an operational team, are very confident in the plan that we have moving forward. That being said, she is still working with us on a part-time basis and will be able to still directly support her coordinators and AVP. And her AVP will be more directly supported by Jason Verhoebe, the Director of Student Experience. It is worth noting that the Graduate Students Association has effectively opened up the mini market inside of Veritas Cafe on the Waterloo campus. It is, for all intents and purposes, for undergraduate and graduate students, a pay what you can bodega grocery store. There are more explicit instructions on how it all works. If you go into the market, it's basically in that private room that's part of Veritas Cafe. So anybody who has any food insecurity or has more resources than others and is willing to pay their share to help support that program, I encourage you to at least visit it, if not partake and become a shopper. We're really excited for them, and it's a big priority for Jeremy, the president of the Graduate Students Association, and he's been working on food insecurity at Laurier for almost 3 years now, and it's a big major part of his dissertation and his PhD. So we're really excited for them and the work that they're continuing to do. Sorry, is there questions for that? Or am I just hearing things in my headphones? Okay, I will continue. It is Local Advocacy Week for the Government and Stakeholder Relations Committee and Department. They have been meeting with local members of Parliament, members of provincial Parliament, as well as municipal officials. There have been a variety of meetings where they've been kind of advocating for their 3 top priorities, I believe. Ian may be able to expand on that if there are questions. But it's been a busy week so far, having met with several politicians, both of all levels, but a very productive discussion at each one of those opportunities. And in the Waterloo campus, they've done tours of that mini market as well to address some of the food insecurity issues within Waterloo region. The Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance will be on site meeting with senior administrative leaders as well as leaders within the Students' Union on the Waterloo campus this coming Monday. I myself, along with Ian Muller, will be meeting with the new executive director for USA and look forward to hearing what her vision for the future of that organization is. Big shout out to the programming and promotions departments of the Students' Union. With a very successful One Direction night in Wilfs last week. It's probably one of the busiest nights that Wilfs has had in at least 2.5 years. And we're looking forward to hopefully similar success on the Brantford campus with their upcoming Taylor Swift night. I believe that takes place tomorrow evening in the Games Lounge in One Market. We have candidates for all of the faculty associations for the upcoming Laurier Votes election. So all the faculty associations should have leadership ready for the transition into next year. I'd also like to shout out the efforts of getting board candidates. So we ended up, I think it was something like 12 candidates for the final 6 spots, which is horrifically exciting. It's the most candidates that we've had for the board of directors in quite some time. And yeah, really excited to see what comes of that. Shane is really looking forward for whenever the next board of directors meeting is, because he has a presentation of a State of the Union, which is basically him updating where he is with his priorities and items that were on his platform and his agenda for the year. He wants to update the board with how things are going, what things have been left off and why, etc. And he's really looking forward to kind of presenting that to you guys. One of his major priorities is the House Olympics, and that's getting ready to start promotions shortly. And the events for House Olympics should be starting in early February. And on an operational side, the SAAA agreement, we have a meeting next Friday where hopefully we'll be able to get to what everyone around the table is hoping will be the final draft. If we can all get to an agreement on that final draft, we should be able to present it to the board of directors for your approval shortly thereafter. Not really sure what the timelines of that look like, but you definitely will see a version of that agreement before your term is up as directors. And that's about it for Shane.
Okay, are there any questions or comments for the executive director? Okay, so asking none, we'll move on to comments from the executive director and COO. Bill, you can take it away again.
Yeah, surprise everybody, I'm back. Yeah, it's been an exciting and fast-paced return to campus in January. It's hard to believe that we're already on the back 9 of the month and soon reading week will be upon us. Not a ton to update. Wilfs is open, kind of back to business as usual. Doing a lot of activities within the clubs department and the faculty association stuff within Wilfs as well as the turret. Working hard going through the leadership of the students union as we do a SWOT analysis of individual departments and slowly build out some of our operational priorities and recommendations to make some changes so that we can better serve our students. We're still in the very early stages of that particular project, so there's not a lot of detail to report back. Other than that, most of it was covered inside of Shane's stuff, so happy to field any questions should there be any.
Director Boucher, you can go ahead.
Mandatory, I have to ask a question. I did want to ask, has there been, so the change regarding the VP, like, is it just because they took another job, or is there, something more to it? That's the first thing. And I believe the second question is regarding the SAA. If I recall correctly, about a year ago, I asked a very similar question about what we were negotiating. And I was not a director back then, so I wasn't very privy to those conversations, but I would love to get an update in regards to what we can do. Last question is just general. I know I said 2 questions, but it's actually 3. How can the student union board of directors support the local advocacy week? I would love to just get it out there. It's really important to me.
Yep. So in order, first question, Mackenzie Lake. So one of the bigger threats that our organization faces going through the SWOT analysis is the fact that most of our student executive are graduated students and on a 1-year contract. So like so many students do during their last year, they are looking for whatever the next opportunity is. And so Mackenzie wasn't actively looking for anything, but an opportunity presented itself in a career path that kind of fit where she wanted to go. And she would have been remiss not to pursue it. And she's obviously a high quality candidate. And the fact that she got that job is not even remotely a surprise. So there's nothing to do inside the organization that made her leave. It was just an opportunity so that she knew what she was doing May 1st. So second question, the SAAA. The major changes that we're looking at doing, I'm not particularly comfortable discussing in an open meeting, but happy to discuss it in an in-camera because we haven't had an agreement signed or anything, so that things could change pretty dramatically. So I will leave that to you, but I am happy to discuss it, just not in open meeting like this. But the changes are fairly substantial and very important given the economic landscape of the university moving forward. So we're pretty excited about the changes. And should you move in camera, happy to get a little bit more detailed.
I'll follow up on the SAA agreement.
Yep.
Since the board of director votes on it, I think it would be worthwhile to just let you know that, like, if you don't believe that it's in best interest of students and the final draft still comes to us to sign off on it, do you think that do we have the right to say no, we don't like this, and what would be the ramifications of doing that?
So let's walk it backwards a little bit and start with your premise. So we work very strongly with the university administration and our partners in the Graduate Students Association. And if there's a point operationally of disagreement, we would never bring that version of an agreement to you. We work very hard to come to consensus. And so when the agreement's ready to be presented to the board of directors for their official stamp on that, could you say no to that agreement? Yes, but it will have gone through serious vetting at that point. And so it would have to be something pretty serious to prevent you from doing that.
Right. And that's why,
yeah,
like,
I mean, theoretically,
sorry, like
Yeah,
that's
go
why,
ahead.
like, if we do have an in-camera session, I think it would be really important for you to tell me what your priorities are, and I would
Yeah.
love to achieve all of them. And if you can't, potentially the board should have a discussion about, you know, saying no, because typically we just say yes. So,
yeah, no, we met this morning with what I call ELT Light. So basically Deb McClatchy's leadership team, but not the full leadership team. So that included Deb McClatchy, Lloyd Naroda, who's the VP Finance of that particular organization. Obviously, Ivan Joseph was there. Heidi Northwood, the new AVP academic or acting AVP academic or VP academic. Sorry, she's not an AVP. As well as Kristen Bridge and the two student presidents, as well as the two executive directors. So the group of us met and kind of went over a brief that we presented, and everything seems pretty amenable. There are a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross in terms of how things want, because we're actually demanding quite a bit, and it's doing things in a way that Laurier is not necessarily accustomed to doing them. So we're just trying to figure out how to make that fix. And again, I'm happy to go into more detail in a more private setting, but it's not appropriate at this time. But for sure, and there'll be ample opportunity for you guys to review the document and ask whatever questions you need to ask.
thank you so much. I really appreciate your work.
And the third question was Local Advocacy Week and how can the board support Local Advocacy Week? Ian, if you're still on the line, I'm going to defer to you because he's more of a Local Advocacy Week expert and support than I am. So I will pass that off to him because I'm not entirely sure what that looks like.
Yeah, so Local Advocacy Week is a series of meetings which have been ongoing this week. So there isn't necessarily a direct role that the board has in supporting that, though there is some kind of at times crossover. So for instance, newly elected Director Corey participated in one of the meetings this week as it pertained to one of his other volunteer roles. So in the past, that has happened in similar fashion. There are a number of takeaways or follow-up items that come from the meetings that the GSR department will be working away on. Some of them could end up involving strategic discussion. So at such time that an advocacy priority can reach that level, potentially it would come to the board as a discussion item. But otherwise, I'm happy to connect with our VP Kayla to see if it would be okay to circulate the briefs with this group, and then you could kind of see what those major items were. So short answer, not a lot practically, but there may be some strategic discussions that come to the table in the future that are born out of some of these discussions.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, any further questions or comments for the executive director and COO? Okay, so I see now we'll move on to the committee reports. Let me check real quick. Yes, so the record inspection committee report. So if everyone could please go to page 47, I think it is. Yes, page 47. So GP number 2, G3, the record inspection committee was struck on January 7, 2023 with the mandate to review and assess GP number 2, G3. Committee ensures that the evidence presented was appropriate and up to date, the wording of the policy is sound, and that the scope of the organization was captured in the policy. The board, the membership of the committee consists of Board Chair Doug Fudice, Director Bottinger, and Director Goodwin. All members were in attendance. For GP number 2, G3, DIC, the committee had discussion on the following items prior to making their final decision. The the wording of the policy was still relevant to the organization. The scope of the organization was captured in the policy. How recent the policy was looked at and revised, and its scope of the organization is captured in the policy. The final decision of the committee consists of one recommendation, and that is to change all mentions of chief returning officer to governance coordinator. Is there any discussion on this? Any further recommendations? Yes, Ian.
Yeah, so from a practical standpoint, I don't necessarily think that this particular change is needed. The governance coordinator will serve as the chief returning officer, so it doesn't practically change anything. It does, it would require a subsequent change if for some reason in a particular year a different individual was appointed chief returning officer, which the board could do for a variety of reasons. So given the circumstances and the fact that just the mechanism of that particular role, I think it would probably prevent further work in the future if it was just left as chief returning officer.
Okay, so we can do that then. So the final decision consists of no recommendations of the policy at hand. So can I have a motion on the table to adopt the monitoring report as submitted, except for the recommendations submitted? Motion by Director Rashid, and seconded by Director Bottinger. Would you like to speak to your motions?
All good.
Any discussion on the matter? Is your hand still up?
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify, this is a direct inspection committee report, not a monitoring report.
Oh,
So you could just, and all you have to do is motion to approve the report. If the board was proceeding with a change, you would need a separate motion to make that particular change. But if you're just accepting the report regardless, you can just motion to accept.
Okay, so can I have a motion to accept the policy as is? Motion by Director Claire, seconded by Director Rashid. Would you like to speak to your motions? Any discussion on the matter? As I see none, moving to voting. All those in favor? All those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so I see none, the motion passes 7-0. Next up, we're moving to BMD number 1. Share my screen. Oh, Ian, do you mind enabling screen sharing?
You should be good now.
Okay, so once again, this direct inspection committee consisted of myself, Director Boucher, Director Dermott, and Director Claire. Directors Dermott and Claire were not in attendance while sending regrets, and there are no recommendations to the policy at hand. Before we move forward into approving it, are there any comments, suggestions, or any proposed amendments to the report? Director Boucher.
Yeah, I'd just like to actually just remind the directors that this is actually a very important policy. It basically tells us what we can and cannot do. I just was reading it, the second. So if you would it be okay for me to just read out the policy, because again, it's really important.
I don't really think that's necessary, but
Okay.
if you'd like to, you can.
It's okay if you don't think it's necessary. Then I won't.
Okay. Are there any further recommendations or comments to be made? Okay, so I see none, move on to voting. I'll move on to a motion. Can I have a motion on the table to approve the policy as presented? Motion by Director Boucher, seconded by Director Bottinger. Would you like to speak to your motions? Any discussion on the matter? As I see none, we'll move into voting. All those in favor? All those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so seeing none, the motion passes 8-0. Next up on the agenda is okay. So I'm going to talk about the winter tour meeting schedule after the tap access for Wilson Turret, because I need to be excused for a moment. Director Rashid, you are the chair until I return.
Sure. I guess I'll chair the meeting.
Sorry,
wait.
just to be a bit of a stickler here, we need a motion for Mohammed to take over as chair.
I would like the motion for Director Abu-Rashid to take over chair until Director Del Duce comes back.
I'll second that motion.
So do we hold an election?
No, you would you can just vote. Francesco, the chair would normally hold this vote before
All right.
passing it off, so you can maybe vote
So-
by a raise of hands whether or not the motion passes or not.
Would you guys like to raise your hand? I can't really see the board, like physical board in person. So if somebody in there could just tell me, okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. How many hands is that?
All three of us.
Okay, so I believe that's anybody against? Okay, as I see none, anybody abstaining, I will abstain. Right? I should abstain. Yeah, so the motion passes 7-0 to 1. So we received a briefing note from operations. It's in regards to tap access for Wilfs and the turret. Essentially, Wilfs and the turret are requesting tap access instead of physical key access to the entrances and exits, if I believe, Phil, if that's correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Ultimately, the request is to mitigate risk on a couple of different fronts. So where
Okay.
Wilfs is concerned, basically the thing that kind of started us down this road in the fall was one of our suppliers lost their key. And depending on what key they actually had, that could have forced a very expensive rekeying of our building. Luckily, it didn't amount to that. They ended up finding their key. But what we can do with tap access is give our suppliers cards. And if they lose their card, we can just cancel their card and issue them a new one rather than having to rekey everything. So we think that that's an investment well worth making. It also allows us to kind of manage keys with assistant managers, and kitchen and front of house lead hands. It just allows us to kind of have a lot more flexibility in terms of opening and closing that facility. Where the turret is concerned, very similar arguments would be made. But one of the benefits that I actually am advocating for to have tap access to the turret is to allow students to be able to have, if they have an active one card and the turret is open and available as student workspace, that rather than having a staff member have to go and open and close those doors, they can just tap and walk in, which will hopefully make that room a lot more accessible to students on the Waterloo campus. And then we'll just have to be diligent about advertising all over the place in terms of when that room is actually available for student space, which is more often than you would think.
Okay.
But operationally, it's hard to do with keys and whatever. But having folks tap in with their one card would be amazeballs. Please don't put amazeballs in the minutes.
I believe the chair is back, so I would like to motion to bring the chair of this meeting back to Francesco Del Duce.
Second.
So we have a seconder, Director Bottinger. We have a motioner, Director Bottinger, seconded by Director Corey. I'd like to hold a vote. All those in favor? I believe that is anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Vote passes 8-0 to 0. Back to you.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Where were we? Were we still in the discussion of tap access for Wilson Turret?
Yeah.
Okay, so Director Muller, you can continue.
So
Actually-
I was just explaining why it was a good idea and why we were making the recommendation, and the ability to mitigate the risks by having tap access to those facilities. And ultimately that discussion was over. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Director Abou-Rashid, I see you have your hand up.
You're muted, my friend.
Yes. So the first is in regards to the deduction. If the Hawk's Nest is going to be emitted, I'd like to get an operational recommendation on that. The second is, according to the Facilities and Asset Management internal quotation document itself, the document is valid up to 1 month after being issued. It was issued on December 2nd. We are well past 1 month, which would mean that does that mean that we're going to have to get another quotation on that? Will the price significantly change?
It's possible, but I'd be shocked if the price changed at all, to be honest.
And I assume that is the best we can get, because like $40,500 is a lot of money.
There's a lot of wiring and stuff that has to go into it, so they've got to reroute it through our building. So there is actually substantial amount of work that would need to be done to kind of get that set up properly. But the amount of money and risk that it mitigates in the long run would be well worth it, because essentially the cost of both of these projects is just shy of what it would cost to rekey the entire building. So it would be significant.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Lapachelli, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, in the installation of these new modules, will this increase any type of maintenance kind of going forward as opposed to what we had with the keys, or is that something we're considering at the moment?
Full disclosure, I don't actually know the answer to that question, but we've had, excuse me, the Fred Nichols Campus Center and the Student Center in Brantford have been on tap access in a lot of the areas since COVID, and we've had zero maintenance in that time. So I don't anticipate there being a lot of maintenance, and there would be a lot of argument to push back on the university to defer some of those charges back to them, since it's their system.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments for either Executive Director? Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Corey, you can go ahead.
Sorry, just a similar question. In terms of actually installing all the wiring and getting the doors coated over, what's the impact to student use of the space, and sort of what impacts do we foresee with doing any of that?
Should be none. So both of the facilities have multiple access points, and in the process of kind of quote unquote being in the way, if a particular entrance and exit are blocked, there are multiple avenues around to be detoured, so access to the facility shouldn't change.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have comments or questions?
Is it possible to get like a warranty, quote unquote, on the maintenance part? Or is that implied? Because I prefer if it's explicit. Like, can we get, like, you know,
whenever there's purchase of hardware, there's always warranties kind of attached to that. Yes.
okay, because yeah, I don't want to pay any more than I absolutely have to.
Yep, you and me both.
Okay, Director Corey, your hand up again.
Sorry, I forgot my question right as I raised my hand.
No worries. If it comes up again, you can ask it during in camera or during our additional comments at the end. Okay, any further discussion on this matter? Okay, let's see none, we'll move on to
I need
Oh,
permission from the board, so you need to vote on it.
okay, So can I have a motion on the table to approve of the recommendations presented for the tap access for the Wolves, for Wolves Sanitarium? So motion by Director Leclerc, and seconded by Director Shova. Would you like to speak to your motions? Any discussion on the matter? That's none, we'll move into voting. All those in favor? All those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so that's none, the motion passes 8-0 to 0. So moving onwards to the winter term meeting schedule, even though I haven't, yes, Director
I
Paul.
just wanted to check something. Carson had his hand up. I'm not entirely sure if that was a no vote or what happened there.
Sorry, no, I just forgot to put my hand down.
All right, no worries. So I haven't received everybody's schedule, but I have received, I believe, enough to form some meeting times. So we have 4 meeting times available for this term. We have Thursday at 4 p.m., Tuesday at 7 p.m., Wednesday at 5 p.m., and Friday at 1 p.m. So not too sure how we go about this, but I can put them in the chat just so everyone can see. But how do those meeting times sound to everybody? Are there any conflicts with those?
Wednesday at 5 p.m. would be a write-off every week from, I have a class.
Okay,
I have significant conflicts with almost every single one of the proposed times, unfortunately. If you could just drop them in the chat so I can like look at my 3 different schedules.
so Director Bruce, which one of these times are you amenable to, like a later or earlier time during the day?
Thursday at 4 works like mint. Tuesday at 7 I wouldn't be able to do because I have a tutorial. Wednesday at 5 I have a class, and Friday at 1 I work on Fridays. So basically the only time that would work like perfectly, and like Thursday at 4 is like absolutely mint for me. It's very convenient.
Okay, how does Thursday at 4 work for everybody else?
It should normally work for me, but I babysit for work and Thursdays I'm on call if they need me. So usually they don't call me on Thursdays, but that is one of the days where I could be working.
Yeah, I'm guessing you can provide me 48 hours notice because you're on call, right?
I could provide you 24 hours, most likely.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Likewise, Thursday evenings, I do work, some of them, but would be able to give a notice. I don't know if the board's open to it, but something maybe later, earlier in the week. So like a later time of day on like a Monday or Tuesday might be better for me, but I don't know if that's something we're open to discussing.
Okay.
I'd like to amend my previous statement if I can. Tuesday at 7 p.m. works for me. I just looked at the wrong date. I had them mixed up. Tuesday at 7 p.m. works for me as well.
Okay, how does Tuesday at 7 p.m. work for? Yeah.
I have a commitment at 8:30 on Tuesdays.
Okay.
So I could come till like 8:20, but if the meeting was going longer.
How about 6 o'clock?
I could do that. I might have to join virtually because I also work on Tuesdays, but.
Okay. So what time do you work until on Tuesdays?
Typically until 5 or 6, but I just work like an hour away, so.
And this is every week.
Not every week, but most weeks.
So would you be okay with setting it at 6? Like, you think you'd be able to make, that's it, most meetings?
Most meetings, I'd say yes.
Okay,
I was just gonna suggest, like, maybe even later, like on a Monday, like 8 o'clock or something on a Monday, 7, 8. I'm not sure if that works for folks. I think 7 for me on a Monday would work really well. Not sure if you guys would think.
okay, 7 or 8 on Monday was, yeah. Go ahead, Director Boucher.
I have a tutorial from 7 till 8 on Mondays.
Okay.
And Director Corey has a
I have 4 classes on Monday, so I'm not functional when I get out of them.
I think the only thing we can do is Tuesday at 6. It looks like the rest of the week is completely filled up. Director Murphy, if you can give me as much advance notice as you can, really appreciate it. So yeah, kind of have a motion on the table to approve of the board meeting schedule, meeting bi-weekly, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Motion by Director Boucher, second by Director Leclerc. Would you like to speak to your motions?
Yes, I would like to make one comment. Is this going to be sent to all directors and, followed up on, so that
Yeah,
we can, improve attendance? Because that's
I have been making strides to improve attendance. I'm going to be reaching out to every single director well before each meeting to confirm attendance or to get regrets that work for this meeting. So I assume they'll work for the other meetings. Yes.
Just a quick question to confirm. Would our next meeting then be on Tuesday, the 24th?
Well, that's actually up for debate. So, do we want to stick with the original schedule, or do we want to go 2 weeks from now? Like, operationally, do we think it's enough time to get everything in order and I guess to get opinions from everybody, to get an agenda packages working? Is it enough time, or do we want to reschedule for 2 weeks?
Wait, are you asking if we can meet next Tuesday or next Thursday?
Next Tuesday.
Okay.
Sorry, that was you guys. Did I say Thursday? Okay, Phil.
I mean, we're happy to kind of do whatever. Obviously, a little bit more runway is helpful. And if we do it the Tuesday after the elections, we can kind of get the board stamp on the election results, which would be nice. But also that flows nicely because the meeting after that would be right before reading week. And the meeting after that would be right after reading week. And it would just kind of flow kind of naturally after that point. So I would suggest pushing it to February. Nope, I lied. January 31st.
Okay, so that actually sounds like it's a lot better.
I have a quick question. Didn't in the previous conversation say something along the lines of like meeting during the election, like for ownership linkage, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, we can discuss that today and discuss the exact date that we're going to do that. But a board meeting, I don't think is necessary for ownership linkage.
Okay.
Yeah, we can discuss when this event will be. Okay, so can I have a motion on the table to approve of the meeting schedule that we will meet starting on January 31st and then bi-weekly? Motion by Director Murphy, second by Director Boucher. Would you like to speak to your motions? Any discussion on the matter? As I see none, moving to voting. All those in favor? All those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, as I see none, the motion passes 7-0 to 1. Onwards to the Brantford election event. So we still have time to plan this event, I believe. We originally planned it for Saturday, January the 28th. This was at 8 p.m. This was supposed to be at the Hudson. Ian or Phil, can you please get me in contact with somebody from operations to help me get this off the ground? events coordinator or something of that nature.
What might be better off is if you're going to get in contact with them to see what they may already have programmed that you can kind of piggyback off of, and then kind of work collaboratively to kind of promote the event so that both events are successful. But absolutely, we can get you in contact with the programming body down in Brantford, no problem.
Okay, perfect. Now in terms of the one at Wolves that was supposed to happen on January 10th, once again, I greatly apologize. I completely dropped the ball there. I should have been more proactive in planning that. Phil, do you have a question?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that actually worked out really, really well, because again, we were gonna piggyback the trivia night, and sometime between when we agreed that we were gonna piggyback the trivia night in Guelphs, the programming body switched the trivia night to the 11th, so that would have been awkward for everybody. So it actually worked out in our favor that didn't happen. So
Okay, so that's good, I guess. So sometime next week, I still want to have this event. Are we good for next Tuesday at the same time at Wilkes? Yeah.
I just had a question. Were you wanting to do just like a normal event or trivia at Wills?
We could do trivia.
Just because I know we originally talked about trivia because it would have fallen on the same day, but I know that they just switched trivia to be on Wednesdays now.
Okay, so do we want to do Wednesday then to pick back off the trivia night? How does the board think about that?
Wait, what day is that? I'm sorry. Like, I'm just trying to see if I could come, because that would be kind of cool. And
it would be a week from today.
so the 25th at what time?
8 p.m.
That's close. Would I be able to get travel from Brantford to Waterloo sorted out? Do you think that'll be cool? Kind of cool. I'd love to attend that event.
I think if worst comes to worst, we can cover your travel expenses. Am I correct in saying that, Bill?
Yeah, we just need to take a quick look at the budget, but there's good argument there for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm more than welcome, or I'm more than happy to piggyback off, then we can carpool or whatever.
Yeah. I just as an FYI, I have a class that finishes at 7 on Wednesday. And not to like self-promo or anything, but it's also my birthday too. So it's gonna be a fun event. Yeah. So
Well,
I'm excited.
It'll be a dual event, Will's birthday and election night or election promotion night. So Ian.
So elections results night is the very next night, and there is programming set up for that particular evening as the last day of voting and the announcement of the results. So I don't know if that factors into this decision in terms of doing something the day before that, with people ideally hoping to have the same opportunity to travel down and for results night in Wolf's on the Thursday night.
Well, if we want to, we can host it on the Thursday and sort of like have a viewing party at Will's. Is that something we're open to?
So there already is a, like, the Thursday night programming at Wilps is being planned out as the results night. So I more just mean like, would people be prioritizing attendance at results night over this?
Well,
the very night
I think
before?
what Francesco is suggesting is that they could just do their ownership linkage at results night and piggyback that programming instead of trivia, right?
Yeah.
There just wouldn't be the opportunity to do, like, you could, because the programming has already been planned out for that evening is more what I'm getting at. So you wouldn't be able to do trivia that night, for example.
Okay.
But it's about kind of being in the room and shaking hands and kissing babies with the people, right?
Well, I guess so. If that's the, I don't care. I think like the whole point is to like also, let students know that we exist as an entity.
Right.
Sorry, it's slipping my mind. The election results event is at what?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
The results night is, it starts at what time? Sorry, it slipped my mind.
Okay.
Doc.
I don't know exactly. I mean, Wills will be open, the night will proceed. We're anticipating that the results themselves will be announced around 10 p.m. But there will be programming leading up into that. So there's lots of time in advance of that particular part. I believe there's a DJ that's been booked for that night.
Okay.
Sorry, Ian, can you briefly explain why we can't tag on to this event? It's just because the programming's already been set.
It's not that you can't tag along, you just wouldn't be able to decide. You wouldn't be able to, you'd have to do the programming you'd have to go along with the programming that's already set. You wouldn't be able to like do trivia because they already have a DJ set for that night. That's more what I meant. You would just have to kind of go with the flow with what's already happening that night.
Okay. Director Murphy, you've had your hand up for quite a long time.
I have. I was just gonna say, I think maybe instead of piggybacking on the Thursday, only because they already have other programming and stuff set, so then we're kind of just like clipping on a hook at the end and they've kind of done all the work already. If the Wednesday doesn't work and it's also the night before, we can also do something on the Monday or Tuesday. We don't have to piggyback on anything. We could just do our own thing at Wills and make our own programming. If that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense.
I'm pro that idea on Tuesday specifically.
Yeah, Tuesday was my thought as well.
Okay, so Tuesday at 8 p.m. at Wills. Does that work for everybody? No.
No, but I don't need to be there.
How about which Tuesday is that? The next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, or just coming Tuesday?
So the 24th.
Yeah. Okay.
Would it be possible for, I guess, us Brantford directors to attend both events, election night and this, or is it one or the other? What's that like?
I think that all depends on what's in the budget.
Okay.
That's more of an operational question. I think Phil, Ian, once you can get that quote for how much it would cost, I guess connect with myself, connect with Director who should. Sound good? All right. But if it does come down to it, I think it's best if you come to the Orange Thinkers event, mainly because that's where you get to meet the candidates directly.
Right. Don't forget that to loop Director Corey into this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I spoke to Ian earlier today and we're trying to figure out what's happening with it.
Okay, perfect. So we'll loop back to it as to how much transportation costs once you do get a quote. So we'll just run out operationally, but as of now, is it safe to plan for Tuesday the 24th at 8 p.m.? Yeah, okay, perfect. I will get in touch with the APP on that. Ian.
Just to clarify, what type of transportation are we talking about? Do you have a vehicle that you're looking to get kilometers reimbursed, or do you need a rental car, or do you need something that doesn't involve you driving, just for us to give an idea of the options?
I mean, I do have a car. I just don't like to drive. That's a part of it that I don't like to drive at night. It's just like safety thing. But if I do have to drive and that's the cheapest option, then yes, I will do that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're okay with being in the car and me driving, I'm perfectly fine with doing that.
You wouldn't be able to do that. My insurance policy says no.
Mm.
But I would drive if that's the cheapest option. Then and just expensing, then I will do that too. I'm open to that.
Okay, so I think that's enough information to get the transportation costs. I guess it's just process and quote. If you need any other information, Or are we all good there? Okay, perfect. I'll get in touch with the AVP. And doing that, I believe that's it. So can I have a motion that the board of directors proceed to an in-camera session? Motion by Director Murphy, seconded by Director Bottinger. Would you like to speak to your motions? Any discussion on the matter? Okay, that's none, we'll move to voting. All those in favor? All those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, that's none, the motion passes.